What's up, everybody? We've got ourselves another big day of college basketball. I'm Jared Smith. We got the tip-off show here powered by wagertalk.com. We thank you for joining us here on this Thursday, February 27th. Joining us also here from Sports Memo, Ralph Michaels and Drew Martin. Guys, what's going on today? Ralph, I'll start with you. How's the Thursday going?
Hey, Jared, welcome. Hey, guys, for those that don't know, Joe Ranieri and Jared may be splitting the duties. Jared taking over here and there. So welcome. If you guys have watched Jared on sports with him, I know Drew has done shows with him. So, Jared, welcome. We appreciate you stepping in, and we know you are a knowledgeable person in the sport of college basketball, and it's great to have your voice and opinion as part of this show.
Love it, Ralph. Thanks for the warm welcome. Speaking of knowledgeable, Drew Martin, what's going on, Drew?
Oh, so kind of you, Jared. Good to have you on, man. Always enjoy working with you. We got a lot going on, man. Wager Talk, Sports Memo, the Gold Sheet. Glad to have you part of it because more content is coming. So, guys, stay tuned. We got another college basketball show starting up next week. It's going to be kind of the later edition, going over the picks, right? You know, catching moves here. So it's a fun one in the works. Should start next week. So bunch on the docket here at Wager Talk and Sports Memo, man.
Yeah, let's just dive right in. We've got a couple of games we want to focus on first. We'll start in the Big Ten. That's a 7 o'clock Eastern tip-off, 4 o'clock Pacific. Michigan hosting Wisconsin in Ann Arbor. Very big game. Michigan looking to climb the rankings in the Big Ten. Wisconsin looking to kind of hang on to one of those top 4 seeds in the Big Ten tournament. Michigan opened as a 7-point favorite. We've seen this buy back a little bit to Wisconsin at 6.5. Ralph, I'll start with you. Badgers, Wolverines. What's the angle tonight?
Well, you know, we know that the Badgers certainly are a team that want to shoot the three-pointer. They're a top 20 team as far as the number of three-pointers taken. And you look at Michigan's defense, they do a nice job. They're number 44 in defense overall. So, you know, in this game, while I'm a fan of Michigan's, we have to remember what they've done without Livers a few games has really made them a better team. Reeled off 5 straight wins. While I think Michigan gets this home win tonight, I do like the way Wisconsin's playing. Their defense is back into their top 25 mode. Their pace is one of the slowest in all of basketball. 347 out of the 353 teams when they have the ball. So I expect the scoring to be lower. And happy to take any of the points available with Wisconsin. So, hey, Drew, you know, did you know we were going to have to change up the show and do the marquee games first with Jared? But, hey, a new guy, a new system. We'll see how it works.
Yeah, it's all good, man. Just fast-paced, give the people what they want. Let's give them some picks here. Unfortunately for me, Jared, I mean, this Big Ten matchup, these are 2 teams that I haven't really bet a lot of this season. Ralph brings up in terms of pace of play, you know, Wisconsin, one of the slower teams in the country. They're having to go on the road here, so I don't think they're going to be able to slow it as much as they would like. Although Michigan, you know, it's not like they're really looking to push the tempo. They haven't played a game in the 70s in terms of possessions in, 4 or 5 games now. So it's not a game I have circled as a lot of interest from a betting perspective, so I'll just keep it short and sweet, man.
Interesting. Let's move to the Pac-12 now. Arizona at USC. Of course, Arizona trying to make a push. They've been climbing the rankings of late. It looks like we're seeing just a hair of movement off of Arizona in this game. It opened at 6 with the Wildcats as favored, and now it's at 5. Ralph, any interest with this Pac-12 showdown tonight? Talk about what you're seeing out there in L.A.
You know, I look at Arizona, and they have played better on the road than at home, and it's very you can't say that for a lot of teams, but you know, their losses on the road, Arizona State by a point. That, of course, was Arizona State having revenge for a 28-point beat. A loss at Oregon in overtime, and then a loss at Oregon State, which is a carryover. You know, you're looking at the 2. What a matchup between freshman centers. You know, you're looking at one of them is going to be freshman of the year, you know, in the Pac-12 and perhaps in the country. And, you know, if you look at Najee or OO, you know, you could give it to either one. But the interesting thing about USC is this. If you look back and you say you lost to Colorado, you lost to Utah, those were bad losses. but they had the stomach flu going through the team. Rakovic didn't even play against Utah or played a few minutes. They had another starter only play a few minutes. Those guys are going to be healthy back in this game. They're expected to be ready to go. So I expect a brawl. I expect a very close game. But if you're asking me who's going to win the game, I'm going to say the Arizona Wildcats do pull it out, coming off that loss against Oregon, that overtime loss. Again, I like their road dichotomy and the way they played on the road away from home.
Drew, what's your take on USC Arizona? Any interest with this Pac-12 showdown?
I mean, I would first go to the discrepancy in USC home away splits here, Jared. I mean, this is a team that plays very, very differently at home than they do on the road. Almost all of their losses coming on the road. They only have one loss here at home in conference. So that is a nod here towards the Trojans. It's just Arizona, one of the top teams in the Pac-12, obviously. Very good from 3, very good from 2. Knock down their free throws as well. A talented team, a team that can make a push in March Madness. Not necessarily looking to go against the Wildcats, but it being a 10 p.m. Eastern tip here, a watch and win on ESPN. Always interested from a betting perspective, and I know a lot of sports bettors out there are, man. So if you made me bet it, I'd actually go on the home dog here. I'm not looking to lay points against USC at home, man.
Love it. Drew and Jared, I got a question for you guys. Let's jump back, and I want to talk about a few games yesterday, and that Maryland come back against Minnesota, as we're looking back, looking through. I didn't do a sheet today with Jared's first day. We will go back and start doing the sheets with the upsets and the biggest covers. But, couple upsets I want to mention. Duquesne winning at St. Bonnie's was a big win for them. They may have only been a 3-point dog. And Massachusetts, I was on UMass plus the 5 against VCU. And, for our viewers moving forward, when you look at UMass, they're a team that's played very well at home. When you look at VCU, this is a team that's 17-11, has lost 6 straight games. Mike Rhodes was talking about it in the Richmond Dispatch yesterday, how he may go with younger kids his next few days. He's got some starters banged up. He went with a lot of young kids against UMass. I think VCU may very well be a team to fade the rest of this year, but then when those starters are healthy and they're back in the Atlantic 10 tournament, I think they may flick the switch and be a team that, despite going 2-8 their last 10 games, could potentially win the Atlantic 10. So VCU, just a completely intriguing team from me last night. Drew, your biggest surprise of last night?
Let me pull up I guess St. Joe's versus St. Louis game. Watching that, because I had the under, and something I took away from it is, it was really on pace for the under, and St. Joe's is a team I had circled as kind of an under team just because in terms of their last couple games pace-wise. But at the end, man, whatever it was, it was like the refs or the 2 head coaches. They were going at it, man, fouling, keep stopping the clock, which, betting unders, it's always like you got to watch out for that in college basketball, as I know you guys know, man. And I ended up having to really sweat it out, and it only stayed under by 1 basket. So I was actually looking to do some research on who those refs were and try to find where they're going next because, man, they were calling everything down the stretch. Wow. I feel like I had it pinned. And so that's one thing that kind of just came off the top of my head of what I learned from yesterday's card.
That is awesome, Drew. 34. St. Louis got to the free throw time 34 times.
Dude,
the
it's crazy.
The officials were Ron Grover, Pat Driscoll, and Matt Porter.
Well, so let's talk a good handicapping here. I mean, Ralph, how can we take that as handicappers and the watchers out there in terms of using that going forward to try to find some winners with those guys that are going to call a lot of fouls?
Well, let me ask you this. Because the Killer Sports database that I use has referees in there. You can do that. So, the question then is this. Was St. Joe's just fouling because they were down, or were there a lot of Nicky pick?
There was a lot of Nick. Lot of Nick.
Right.
Dude, every time they went to the basket, it was a foul. Now, granted, they were playing tough. They didn't give up. But, man, there was a lot of nicky-nack calls, man. I would like to know who those refs were and bet on overs with them calling games.
Yeah, 56 points in the first half in that game. There was 83 3 points in the second half between St. Joe's and St. Louis, and that was a very interesting matchup. The Big Ten I thought was interesting last night. Obviously, you had the Rutgers game at Penn State, where Penn State hit the shot late to win it, and then also Maryland came back from pretty much out of nowhere to win their matchup against Minnesota. So, I mean, Ralph, I'm curious your thoughts, the Big Ten as a whole, as we kind of cruise through. We talked about that Wisconsin-Michigan game, but I think the Big Ten as a whole going to get 10 teams in the tournament. Maybe some underlying value in them against Michigan.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised, Jared, if they got 11 in.
Wow.
Depending on how the tournament goes, you're looking at, if you're 500 in the Big Ten, you're going to be in. So that takes you through Rutgers. Indiana at 8, 2, 4, 6, 8. That is 10. So Purdue would be the team that is in the question mark, getting to 10 or 11. We've talked about this often on the show. To me, the Big Ten, there is no conference like it. You have 12 teams in the Ken Palm top 40. So obviously, strength of schedule is just brutal. I think it's going to help them. The SEC has one team in the top 30 in defense. The ACC has 6 teams top 30 in defense. In the Big Ten, you have 11 of the 14 teams being top 40. So that defensive presence, that guard play, playing against elite defenses, I think is going to help the Big Ten. I don't think anyone's going to be seeded. Maryland's going to be the top seed. So if they win the tournament, they might get a 1, probably more likely a 2. You're going to see a lot of Big Ten teams in those 4s, 5s, 6s, and 7s. It's going to be interesting. I think the committee might have to drop some down into 8s and 9s just so they're not playing each other early on as they try to spread it out.
I was thinking about that. Drew, to me, the seedings is fascinating because a lot of these Big Ten teams are probably going to be 4 and 5 seeds, which means they're going to get the 1 seed in the Sweet 16, which to me, there's going to be one of those. We talked about it today, all morning long. There's going to be one of these 1 seeds, at least one probably, definitely one, and maybe more that lose in the Sweet 16 against one of these really good 4 or 5 teams from a major conference. Most likely the Big Ten, maybe the SEC. We'll see.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised by it either, Jared. And it comes back to I believe can a conference play a conference before the Sweet 16? I know they used to not, but
I think they try to put them in different pods.
Yeah, exactly. So, it's going to be tough on the committee for seeding this year. I would think even more so than in years past. But you're right, man. There seems to be, the top echelon of teams might be down this year, but I think it actually makes for a better March Madness because, it 1 through 30 is very, very strong, I feel, and going to make for a competitive matchups here in March Madness.
Yeah, I got a little pushback yesterday because people are telling me that they think Kansas is that elite team. I think they're right now the best team, top to bottom, but I don't think that they're an elite team in terms of what we've seen as elite teams past. Ralph, moving right along, trends and angles for the night. What do you got for me? I know you always got something cooking in the lab.
Wow,
there.
I am looking at what Drew was talking about, and when Matt Potter is an official,
oh boy,
I mean, he is way to the over. Now the problem is this, Drew. I didn't realize this. You don't always have the same 3. You mix the 3 every game, so you're not going to get the same 3. But looking through the database at killersports.com, and you can put officials in, and it gives you all the 3 officials. When Matt Potter is involved in a game, he is over 70% to the over. So. I would need more time to go through and look at how many free throws they're getting, but certainly an interesting stat and something to look at moving forward. All right, trends for today. You guys know that I'll say it again. We've got a new guy on the board with us with Jared. So those people, because this is a trend or an angle, and it may be a wow trend or a wow angle, it doesn't mean I'm telling you to play this game. It's just part of your handicapping. It perhaps makes your play stronger. It perhaps keeps you off a game. But just because we have some wow factors with these trends, I'm not saying play it. One of those, or let's mention Gonzaga. While they did go under their last game, Gonzaga still 20 overs and 3 unders their last 23 games, a whopping 87%. North Florida, I love teams that go on the road and cover because a lot of times they don't win, but they keep the game close. They keep fouling. They stay in the game. North Florida, now 17-2, their last 19 road games. Couple others to look at. Tennessee State, if you're looking at the Ohio Valley, 0-9 over under their last 9 games. St. Peter's is a team that has made me a lot of money this year. They're 24-8 their last 32 games. And also a situation I want to mention. Drew, I talked about this with you and Joe on a different show. A system's different than an angle because a system is just a situation that applies to any team that fits these categories. And Drew, if you remember, it was February teams that have a win percentage of under 30% and have lost back-to-back games, and they're a favorite of 2.5 or more. Jared, good record or bad record? I'm going to put you on the spot.
I would say bad.
And it makes total sense, right?
Yeah.
You're in February. You have a win percentage under 30%, so you're a crappy team. You've lost back-to-back games, and now you're a favorite. 29-59 since 2010.
There it is.
33% against the spread, and it's Tennessee Martin laying 3.5 or 4. Excuse me, Ted. The SIU Edwardsville. Now, SIU Edwardsville is as bad as it gets, but when Tennessee Martin's a favorite, they're not accustomed to being a favorite. They're a very crappy team, and they're laying points. So something to pay attention to. We'll talk about that game tomorrow to see what happened with the results of Tennessee Martin and SIU Edwardsville. What about the market tonight, Jarrett?
Yeah, I was going to say there's a couple of interesting movers. We've got this Colonial game, Drexel at UNC Wilmington. Wilmington opened as a 1-point favorite. Now the line's flipped to Drexel as a slight favorite. You can find it at 1.5 in most of the marketplaces there. To me, that's always the most interesting move when you go from dog to favorite. What are your thoughts on that Colonial matchup?
Well, I agree with the move because I look at Wilmington, and, while Wilmington is actually, they're off a win against Charleston. They did beat William and Mary at home. They beat Northeastern at home. But this is a team that is still 4-17 their last 21 games. They're a team I just can't make a favorite. Drexel, of course, you look at the last 6 games, Wilmington actually has a better record. Drexel only 1-9 their last 10 games with only a home win against James Madison. But to me, on the eye test, the Dragons look like the better team, so if I had to back a team in that game, I would be on the Dragons.
Let's go to the Ohio Valley Conference. Interesting one there. SIU Edwardsville at Tennessee Martin. Not the juiciest matchup, but we have seen some pretty significant line movement off of Tennessee Martin as a 5-point home favorite. Now they're down to 3. Anything interesting there between those two bottom feeders in the Ohio Valley?
Well, that's our system, and it makes sense. When you have that game, do I agree with that line move? Well, absolutely. If we have a 33% system, and that makes complete sense to me, it shows you that the sharps that play these early lines and move the lines have that same thought process as that system had.
Yeah, good stuff. Drew, let's hop into best bets now. What are you looking at the card today? What stands out to you?
First of all, it's a good card for like late night action, which tends to catch my eye a little bit more here, Jared. And we also have Hawaii going at the midnight.
late night.
So that's for the degenerate of degenerates specials. You get 2 degenerates in there, Jared. I'm gonna tail my good friend mid-major Matt here on best bet, and 655 Gonzaga. Over 70 for the first half. That's the Gonzaga game. They have been on an absolute tear towards the over. They did drop one of recent, but still, I'm going to go back to the whale here. They're minus 25.5-point favorites, so staying away from the full game just because it gets a little tricky on who's going to play, what's kind of going to be their mentality in the second half here, most likely. But they are at home hosting San Diego, and I'm on the first half over 70.
Good stuff. Ralph, what do you got best bets for the night?
Hey, Jared, I just want you to know, as the host, you are required to give a best bet out as well.
That's
so
great.
I'm going to give mine. I'm just giving you enough time to make sure you have yours in your head.
I already got it.
I'm going to mention 2, and the first one was just from reading I do. And for those people that know, I'm a real situational handicapper. I look at matchups, but I do a lot of reading of the papers. And when I went in and read the Oregon papers today, I have never read an article with a team talking about revenge like Oregon has in the Civil War against Oregon State. They've lost 3 of 4 to Oregon State. They have played very poorly against them. And I actually leaned Oregon State prior to reading that article. But, I mean, that article, just with so many quotes from so many players, so many quotes from the quotes, I am going to be intrigued to watch the Civil War tonight and wouldn't mind laying Oregon and the 10. I will say one game that I did have, I already bet and I gave to my customers. This game tips off at 6 p.m. Eastern, and it's Delaware plus the points against Charleston. It's the number 1 game on the line board, game 601, 602. Again, 6 p.m. tip-off. I have Delaware just simply the better team. I have Delaware as a 2-point favorite, so I have a 6-point difference in the line. You're talking about Delaware, who's you're talking about Charleston, who's 3-9 ATS as a favorite. You're talking about a situation where Delaware was missing Dylan Painter the first half of the year. He's a multi-year starter. Since he came back, they've been a completely different team. They're 8-2 their last 10 games. There are only 2 losses in the stretch to first-place Hofstra and to second-place William & Mary. Wrong team favorite in my book. It is not only a best bet, it's a 4% that I'm selling at Wager Talk as part of my package today, game 601.
Love it. Good stuff. I'm going to stay in the Northeast. Interesting matchup tonight in the MAC. It's Iona at Canisius, and I know Iona, Tim Palouse has had to miss the entire season with some health issues. The Gales struggled in the interim there, but they've been playing a lot better of late. They've got 2 seniors on the team. They're a very experienced team in March. They've been to the tournament several years in a row. I think either 3 or 4 years in a row. Actually, I think it is 4 years in a row that they've been to the NCAA tournament. This is the time of year where they start playing a lot better. They're underdogs tonight at last place Canisius, 1.5-point dogs. So I'm going to go with the Gales tonight. Guys, great stuff. I appreciate it. It's been fun joining the crew. Really looking forward to diving in. I'm joining at a good time with March right around the corner. Of course, don't forget, subscribe, like Wager Talk TV, our YouTube channel as well. And of course, visit Wager Talk for all the picks, sportsmemo.com for all the picks. For Ralph Michaels and Drew Martin, I'm Jared Smith. Thanks for watching the Tip-Off Show. Enjoy the Thursday. Good luck.
Thanks, guys. Talk to you in 23 hours.